Well, good day, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of WTF Walk the Floors. I'm Stephanie Leger with First Rate Hospitality, and I'm joined with my co host, Michele Kline. Hi, Michele.
Hi, Stephanie. How are you?
Mhm.
We have someone very special here today.
Yes.
So, we are going to be talking about the life of the country club. And here's the thing, we continue to say that hospitality is hospitality, regardless of where you are. It doesn't really matter what segment of our industry, but we strongly believe that anyone in the country club business is still in the process of creating memorable experiences. So, we have Chad Nelson, who is not quite in the country club
Mhm.
segment of our industry anymore, but he has an array of experience from hotel transitioning into country club and out to timeshare. So he has a very, very well-rounded type of experience and perspective and points of comparison. And I'm sure he's going to take us down that memory lane and tell us a little bit of how that transition was. So Chad, if you want to walk us through your history briefly, a little bit, tell our audience why they should be so excited to listen to you today, and
Sure.
then we'll kick it off.
Well, you really talked me up, so I really appreciate that. But thank you for having me on the podcast today. Really happy to be here. And actually, Michelle and I used to work together a while back, so it's nice to see Michelle again. She's really fantastic. My background started in major hotel chains. Always been in food and beverage my entire life. And I was with three different chains for several years, probably 15 years before getting into the country club business. Then I joined a major golf company and was able to travel around the country and help out with different tournaments, but also had a home in two different clubs. So I really enjoyed my time with country clubs. I love golf. I love food and beverage, and joining those two was fantastic. So I spent 6 years in the country club business, and now I'm at a resort in Las Vegas and the director of food and beverage for a major resort.
So it seems like it was the perfect marriage, right? Your hobby of loving golf and then your calling of being so amazing in the food and beverage world, but probably you got to that point where enough was enough, maybe.
Well, in the country club business, it's different. It's when I started in hotels, hospitality, you had a transient guest for the most part, where they would come in and maybe spend 3 to 7 days with you, and then you would not build that relationship with people. In a country club, you could see that same person 3 to 4 days per week. So building that relationship for me was awesome. But it presented its own challenges as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you hit it with the longevity is that we're so used to the hotels where it's like, okay, we know they're checking out usually within 3 to 5 days, and we can't wait until they're
Yeah.
leaving. However, when you're having that guest at the country club that is now wanting to making sure that you know from A to Z of every interaction that they've had and all of their experience, but then also to their insight to making it better. And you're like, oh, wow, they have another year until they're going to renew their for their contract to be a member again. Can't wait.
Yeah, you definitely get a lot more opinions on what you should do, and you listen to them and you take that information in, and you're really trying to develop a program that not only matches what they like, but what their children like, or maybe their parents like, because the country club setting, they're bringing their families in, so your operation really needs to appeal to many different categories ages and demographics.
How would you say, Chad, was the transition? Because something that we've seen with COVID is a lot of professionals, as a result of the shutdowns and elimination of positions and so on, are transitioning their skill set within the resort setting to other segments of the hospitality industry. So if you were to give people out there a few tips of, how was your experience transitioning from hotel big brands, big box brands, to the smaller setting where, again, your guests are the same people day in and day out, and now you're kind of like their person, right? So how would you say that transition was like for you? And then if you could highlight a few tips for those who are perhaps in that situation that are moving from one segment to the other.
Yeah, I think when you're within a big box brand, you're making menus maybe 3 to 6 months, and they'll last 3 to 6 months long. When we went to the country club or that club style of setting, you really need to stay fresh. And because if you're coming to the club 3 to 4 times per week, just like you're at home, you don't want to have the same food over and over again. So that was a big transition for us is we really needed to stay fresh with our menus, our drink menus, our programs. So that was a major challenge, because in the big boxes, with the transient guests, you could rely on a 6-month menu or 4 to 6 month menu. But in a country club setting, even staying fresh, a lot of people will go in and they'll order that chicken sandwich 5 different ways. They'll say, well, throw something else on there. Like they really start to making the menu items their own. And so that executive chef and the director of food and beverage really need to work together to make those possibilities happen. But it becomes their own kitchen. And so that's a big transition for that. I think for tips, going into that situation, I think keeping an open mind is very important. Can't go into it thinking it as a major hotel or a resort. This is the guests or the members' time away from their jobs and their home, and this really becomes their second home, and they want they really try to make it as personal as they can, and they try to have a lot of input on what goes on. So
tell Jack in the kitchen he didn't cook this right?
Yeah. One thing too is when they know the chef personally, because the chef has come out and has talked to them, and they build that relationship. And in Las Vegas, the clubs are wonderful because you do build relationships with members, and the members often will take care of chef, like here's tickets to the game or things like that. So it's a great environment. However, you need to have thick skin and swallow your pride a little bit and listen to the members.
I think that's great advice.
Yeah. Very enlightening. Thank you for that. So would you say that, did you ever have, in the same tune of your guests being the one, or your members in this case being the one perhaps bringing the creativity into the menu, did you ever have a chef just walk out? Perhaps not like quit, right? But say, F this, I'm out of here. I can't deal with this anymore. I need 10 minutes and just walk out.
Yes, that happens. And I think that the chef that works in a country club is different than a chef that works in a larger brand.
Ooh, let's explore that. How is it?
You definitely have to have that creativity, obviously, but you also have to enable your members to give a little input as well and accept that input. So someone that is not that way or built that way may not be a good fit for that role. And members can upset chefs very, very quickly. But a lot of those situations can turn into positives. And if you can, like, when I remember, for example, when I was in that, what I did is I created a committee of the members, and we would meet, and I pour them wine, and we sit and chat, and we talk about the menu, and I'd say, this is where we're headed for the menu. This is where we want to go.
Brilliant.
Here's some of the dishes
Get their
that
buy-in.
yeah, and then
Mhm.
the doors open, and chef brings out the dishes that we're talking about, and so it was really a great experience for the members. They felt empowered. They felt like they could give their feedback, and we were listening to them. So you gotta listen to the members. That's the hardest part for a lot of food and beverage professionals.
Oh, yes. And then also too, because it's word of mouth. So now they're going to be talking to their other friends to saying, no, you really, if you're, when they're like shopping around to looking at where they're going to want to be able to become a member, and then
Yeah.
they're hearing, oh, this is what the steps that they're going above and beyond and really taking care of us as the members. And when we're being vocal also too of what we want and need while enjoying the amenities of the club.
Well, food and beverage is a big amenity for the club, and I think we all know the money is in the membership, and the money is in the golf course, um, and the food and beverage should be an amenity to those things. So the food and beverage operations not always profitable in those locations. So I think someone with a mindset of just crunching numbers may not be a good fit for that. But if someone that has the mindset of creativity and trying new things, because you have a lot of autonomy on the menu and a lot of autonomy on what you want to do in the programming. If you're a creative person, this is the right fit for you. But yeah, it's food and beverage is an important part to keeping members happy, and you will make your salespeople very happy that are selling the memberships if you have a great program.
Absolutely. And also too is, with how we were just speaking about with the guests, word of mouth, one suggestion I have also too is always with your team is do a site visit to the other clubs, seeing what their amenities, their experiences, because it's the same thing that the potential members are doing of going around and seeing the competitive out there as well.
Yeah, there's many members that are actually members at different clubs. Like they may have memberships at several clubs. But what I've found in Las Vegas is that it's a very tight-knit network of professionals, whether it's the GM or the food and beverage director. A lot of people know one another for different areas. So that information, it's kind of cool because you see what other people are doing and they see what you're doing. So
Mhm.
you make good relationships and good networking.
That's
Never
great.
burn that bridge.
Never burn that bridge.
Yeah.
So, Chad, would you say from a uniform perspective, in hotels, resort settings, we are, I want to say uptight because we are
Mhm.
uptight, right? We're very uptight when it
Yeah.
comes to how our leaders dress and represent the brand, and also how our team members. And it is definitely something that always calls my attention. I like golfing too, so I go to country clubs, although I don't have a membership specific to one, and enjoy the food and beverage side of it. And I notice how on the course there are more opportunities for me to see more of the like luxury style or the uniformity in the way they're carrying themselves, in the way they're representing the brand, the uniforms, their name tags. But on the F&B side, I don't quite see that. It's typically like a sloppy looking polo shirt and maybe black slacks and like nothing out of the ordinary or nothing that screams luxury. And we're talking about some of these clubs, you pay a pretty hefty price to
Mhm.
be a member on an annual basis. So what do you think is different from both? Or perhaps it has just been my experience.
Yeah, I think the culture from the top down kind of develops the uniform. Um, if you have a leader or a GM or a director that is not mindful of that, it can get away pretty quickly.
Hmm.
And with the staffing challenges that we have currently, uh, I think there's been some acceptability from leaders to say, well, at least they're here. I'm glad that they're here, and not really caring what they look for. At the clubs that I was at, it was a priority for us to differentiate the staff and make them all uniform and look positive and look good. So we really focused on that because we want members to feel like they're being taken care of.
Yeah.
And their server or bartender is a reflection of that that service. So we really made it a point to look at that and to really enforce that uniform. Now, some clubs do it great here, and some clubs, like you said, I think they're just happy to have people, and they don't do a good job of that. But in my opinion, I think it's very important, and I think it starts at the top, and it's a culture rather than enforcing it. You're looking for the people that really care about their jobs, and it shows through their uniform.
Absolutely. And I also do think, with the employees is that relationship with the members, they tend to build this bond because they are seeing them day to day. But then they also, the employees and the leadership needs to remind the employees, like, you're at work, this is your job, and also to making sure that you're keeping it professional at all times when you're interacting with the members.
Yeah, I mean, that's a challenge because if you become friends with them, and we've had several occasions where people have too much to drink, and they, when you have to cut them off, it becomes a personal issue, and it's very difficult. Members can be very.
Yeah, and the
What would
entitlement.
Oh,
Exactly.
yeah, for sure. What would you say, Chad, is your most favorite or the one WTF type of moment that you can recall, either with a team member or with a guest specifically or a member specifically?
This was during the 4th of July, and we had an event going on, and then we had our regular service in our restaurant. And we had a patio that the general manager at the time had added about 10 tables to without us knowing about that. So it was very, very crazy. It was very, very difficult because we had so many people, and the servers were all taking 7 or 8 tables, and it was really, really a struggle. And
How would he do that? You didn't even have the staff to
yeah,
create that memorable experience and flawless service. Are you kidding me?
right. And so we had a family that didn't visit very often, but because they were traveling all the times, they were very lucky to have a lot of money, and so we didn't see them very often, but they were there at that time. And their first meal came out, and it wasn't warm, it wasn't hot, so they sent it back. It came out again, and it came out wrong. So then I got involved, and I personally made sure that their food was ordered properly, like the kitchen knew exactly what they wanted. I took it out to them, and it still wasn't right.
Oh,
And
no.
they had just made a big scene in the middle of everything that was going on. It was just a very tough moment, and I was very proud of the fact that our team didn't lose their cool, and because I think they were being unreasonable, to a point, and but in that setting, you can't let it get to you, and you just have to realize people are who they are at times, and you have to let them be, and try to accommodate them as much as we can. And I think we went back 5 times before the meal was acceptable. So
Oh, no.
Wow.
so there's challenges like that, and like what you talked about, entitlement. They pay a lot of money,
Yeah.
and I know that if I was a member at a club and I had to fork over 20 grand just to get in the door, and I'm paying $2,000 a month, like that's a lot of money to people, and they expect a high level of service.
Absolutely. Well, this has been great. Michelle, anything else you want to be able to
Not
add
really.
for the country club?
I'm processing all this information. I mean, this episode in particular was loaded with tips.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Chad, for taking time away from your day. How is the timeshare world? Are you enjoying it better? Do you feel like it's more active? Are you
You
getting a
know,
little breather from those everyday owners? Although you still have ownership when it comes to timeshare. How is that?
it's great. We're part timeshare, part retail. So we have a little bit of transient guests, but a lot of the repeat guests as well. Things are going very well. I tell you, staffing is very difficult in Las Vegas at the present time, and I know we're not the only ones dealing with it.
Yeah.
And but it's been a challenge, and we're actually coming into our season, so we're very excited about it.
Very cool. Thank you so much for
Wonderful.
being here today, Chad.
Yes, thank you.
Well, thank you, everyone, and have a great day. And we'll see you next time on
See you next
WTF
time.
Walk the Floors.
Thank you.